Oh, wow. Yeah. So, welcome everyone. I think people are still joining. Let's just wait a bit. All right. We just wait for a minute. I'll start when people reach 50.
You have to give them a few more minutes.
Okay.
I think we had quite a few people registered, so we'll give everyone a few.
Yeah, sure. Sure. Neil, I think we can start, right?
It's up to you if you want to wait 1 or 2 more minutes. I can see the numbers still going up, but
Okay. Yeah, sure.
just to make sure no one had any technical difficulties getting in.
Well, welcome everyone to today's webinar, which the focus is on the Israeli agriculture innovation insights for Malawi, especially the Malawian youth. We feel this is so important at this time, at this hour, as a country, where the issues of food security is the top of the news. Not only that, in the agenda, our national plan 2063, we are talking about pillar number 1, which is agriculture productivity and commercialization. And having Israel as a model, as a country which is a model, just to enlighten us on 1 or 2 things, I think it is very unique. So as a God-fearing nation, I would like to give this time to Bishop Metram Chiba, just to open us with a word of prayer. And I'm proud to say he's my pastor. So, wow, wonderful. Thank you, Bishop. Over to you.
Thank you so much, Chifonero, and thank you, our Israeli partners. I am so proud to be part of this forum and also of the things happening in our country and the direction of God that we should work and focus on farming for the seasons to come. I therefore would like to invite all of you to a moment of prayer. Our dear Lord, in the name of Jesus Christ, we thank you for your goodness. We thank you for your mercies that are new every morning. We thank you, O Lord, because your wisdom is past finding out. We now know, O Lord, that you have hidden a secret. You have hidden the secret of prosperity, the secret of progress, right in the ground which we step on, in the fields and in the nature which you have so proudly surrounded us with. As we are beginning, Lord, this session, I pray that it will be productive, it will be efficient, and it will be enlightening. Lord, it will provide a blueprint of the progress and of the great things that are to come to our country and to the many participants that have proudly joined. Father, we pray in Jesus' name, let there be a display of wisdom and a provision of that wisdom that will work so greatly in the panelists and everyone involved. Thank you for the energy, the strength you will provide us, that as we are running and implementing so many of these projects and programs, there will be grace for success. We thank you, and therefore we dedicate this webinar, oh Lord, into your blessings. And in Jesus' name, let there be a help and an intervention from your presence. We trust all these in the name of Jesus Christ, and we say amen. Amen.
Thank you so much, Bishop. We really appreciate it. Amen. 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 Yeah. Thank you so much. Wow, what a way to start. Wow, I've been waiting for this day for some time, and it's finally here. I think the direction that we'll take is that we're supposed to have a youth representative from the National Youth Council. They just informed me that he's currently coming out of a meeting. So we'll kind of lay a background why we have decided to come up with these meetings. I think the background is, as we all know, Israel is a leader when it comes to agriculture innovation. And as we say as a country, we say we are an agri-driven economy. I feel there's a lot that we have to learn from Israel. So I don't want to take much time. I'll take this honor to introduce Daniela Abraham, who is the Executive Director of Volcani International Partnerships. She will introduce what Volcani does to start with, and maybe a bit of what we intend to do in Malawi, and then bring out the presentation. Daniela, over to you. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Chief Onero. Thank you very much for the blessings, Bishop, and the prayer. And good afternoon to all of you in Malawi. It's really an honor to be here. And I'm very, very excited to launch this relationship with all of you on behalf, of all of the expertise here in the state of Israel. So as Chief Onero said, my name is Danielle Abraham. I'm the director of an NGO called Volcani International Partnerships. And our mission is to tackle issues of food and nutrition insecurity using Israeli agricultural expertise. And so for that, we have launched this webinar series, and I'm going to share my screen with you now to make sure you can all see. Chief Onero, can you give me the thumbs up? That's okay. Everyone can see that? Great.
Yeah, you can see that.
Fantastic. So we've launched this webinar series for you. It's going to take place every other week over the course of the next 8 weeks for 4 different episodes. And I'd like to thank our partners, of course, Charis Consult and Invest, the National Youth Council of Malawi, and the Center for Ecological Intelligence, the University of Johannesburg. And I will just launch straight in to really give you an insight over what we're trying to achieve over the next series of webinars. And when we think about what we want to achieve through something, we want it to be tangible and, as the Bishop said, practical and implementable. So we like to think of it through 3 key ways. The first is, what do we want you to feel after this webinar series? And we want you to feel, as the youth, as the agriculturalists, as the farmers of the future for Malawi, we want you to feel inspired. We want you to feel important, because you are very important, and we want you to feel empowered, like you have new resources to do the mission ahead. We also want you to learn things during this. What do we want you to know following this webinar series? We want you to know about Israel's agricultural success, because really it's a crazy story that really doesn't make any sense, which is sometimes why we call it Israel's agricultural miracle. We want you to know that it's possible to do what Israel did in Malawi. There's absolutely no reason why not. And we also want you to know that the future is, of course, in your hands. You are the ones that can make this possible. And then finally, what do we want you to do following this webinar series? What kind of behavior change? We would like to invite you to use the network that we're going to create around this webinar series. We are going to offer a link to a WhatsApp group following this session where you can all join, and you will feel part of the network and that you can use each other and of course us for anything that you need. We want you to own your own destiny, which basically means we want you to take it into your hands and do the farming and actually create a productive future for Malawi. And we want you to tell us, how can we support you? As an NGO, we're hoping to be able to respond to requests on the ground in Malawi by bringing Israel's experts, experience in innovation, really to make the future more productive and more profitable for all of you in Malawi. So unless there's any questions, without further ado, I think we'll jump in. The only last thing I'll say before we really get started is that if you have any questions during the time, you can see that there's a chat box. Feel free to write the questions in the chat. I'll try and look at them during the course of the lecture today, and also Chief Nero will be looking at them. And when we finish, I'll try and leave about 15 minutes at the end so we can start to have some kind of conversations and questions and answers and see if we can get some of those answered. All right, so let's get going. Today, I'm going to address 4 key things. The first is the challenges that Israel had to overcome. Now, I don't know if any of you have been to Israel yet, but you're all very invited to come and visit. But Israel is a crazy place to do agriculture. So I want to give you a sense of what kind of challenges did Israel have to overcome in order to become this global leader. The second is I actually want to showcase what kind of leader Israel is today. What are the key achievements Israel has managed to succeed in doing? The third element of today is I want to introduce very briefly the key drivers of Israel's success. And then I want to leave you with a few messages through a few stories, which I think will be very powerful for you as you go on your journey. So let's get started with the challenges that Israel had to overcome. Like I said, I don't know how many of you, or if any of you, have visited Israel, but if you were to visit 100 years ago, you would have seen scenes like this. Okay, these are pioneers working the land, trying to drain swamps. Here on the right is an image from Israel's desert, which is rocky and dry. And the agriculture looked something like this. It's not the advanced high-tech agriculture you might have imagined. And so there was a lot of challenges to overcome because Israel is not a natural nor sensible place to do agriculture. These are the key challenges, and I want to run through them all with you in turn. So the first is that the people that built the land of Israel, because we're a relatively new nation, we were established in 1948, just before many of the African nations gained independence. But the people that flooded here to build the land, they were not farmers. I assume most of you, your families, your grandparents were farmers. So you have some experience or some knowledge of farming somewhere. The people that came to build the land of Israel had no experience of farming. I don't think the Jewish people had really farmed since Bible times, so they had very little experience. In addition to which, Israel is a tiny country. You might think of Malawi as a small country because it's small compared to some other large countries in Africa, but Israel is really, really tiny, and I want to show you just how tiny. So Malawi, for a point of reference, is about 120,000 kilometers squared. Now I'm going to try, and let's see if we can do a poll. I want to ask you all, how big do you think the state of Israel is? I don't know if you can see the poll on the screen. If you can click some of the answers. You can choose, we can see how everyone is voting. How big do you think Israel is in comparison to Malawi? We'll give you all a few more minutes. I can see everyone answering there. All right, I think we'll end the poll. Let's see the results. Okay, I have to tell you, you're a very, very wise group. Excellent. The correct answer is, of course, 22,000 kilometers. So 47%, oh, we're still voting, 48% of you got that right. So the majority of you got that right. Unfortunately, we don't have as much land as Malawi, and we are definitely not 240,000 kilometers squared. So can I share the results? Here we are. Here are the results you can all see, okay? The majority of you got it right. We are 22,000 kilometers squared, which is a tiny country. So it might make you think, why on earth would Israel even go into agriculture? Because they don't have a lot of land. So if we don't even have a lot of land to start with, it's not the most sensible place to do agriculture. In addition to which, 2/3 of the land that we do have, so remember, just 22,000 kilometers, and 2/3 of that is desert, real desert. I'm talking sand, I'm talking rocks, completely dry and barren desert. Definitely not a great place to do agriculture. Another huge challenge that Israel had to overcome. And associated, of course, with the desert is a lack of water. Now, I know you know in Malawi, you have wet seasons, the rainy season, and you have dry season. And I understand that you know it's very difficult to grow anything when you don't have water. So I wanted to show you the maps of Israel and the map of Malawi side by side, with a comparison of how much rain each gets, okay? Just so you get a sense of how little rain we have in Israel. And then adversely, how much rain in theory you have in Malawi. So if you look at the Israel map here, the darkest green bit, I guess, is one of our wettest places, or up here, okay? But let's just take this dark green. This is 600 to 700 millimeters of average rainfall a year. And now when we compare that to Malawi over here, your driest is up to 800, okay? And that's very, very small parts. The majority is in orange, which is 800 to 1,000, which is really almost more than anywhere in the state of Israel gets. So Israel has a huge lack of water, scarcity of water, and Malawi relatively is in a much better position considering its water availability. In addition to which, thinking about should we do agriculture or how can Israel do agriculture, Israel, this tiny nation, is situated in a very difficult neighborhood geographically. And what that has meant is that our export markets are always that much further afield up here in Europe. Now, as you know, as farmers, this presents a huge challenge in post-harvest and shelf life. We have to make sure our produce can reach our markets further afield. So I want you to understand that Israel is a very difficult place to do agriculture because all of these challenges. However, Israel did something quite amazing. And despite these challenges, it completed a complete agricultural transformation. And it managed to do three things. I want you to know that when Israel was established in 1948, its GDP per capita was at the same level as many African nations today, and it was food insecure. We did not have food security in the state of Israel. We actually had ration books, you know, when you got coupons from the government to exchange for certain food goods. Now, despite starting at that level, and despite facing all of those challenges I just mentioned, Israel not only managed to develop its agriculture and create food security for the state, it managed to position agriculture as a key driver of the economy, a key pillar of GDP. And finally, it's emerged as a global leader of agriculture and water innovation. I want you to show you what that looks like in practice. This is the 1940s. This is the Hula Valley here in black and white. Very unproductive, no farming, or not productive farming. And here in 2012, look at the Hula Valley now. It's one of the breadbaskets of the state of Israel. Don't forget, this is what farming looked like not that long ago here in Israel. And this is what it looks like today. So it's possible. And I want to showcase some of the achievements Israel has made in creating this agricultural transformation. Now, the first is obviously in production. Everyone wants to think about yield. And in Israel, we work very, very hard to maximize the yields for all different kinds of crops. I'll take you through a few. This is citrus, and Israel produces 262 tons of citrus per hectare versus 211 tons in Europe. Now, I did Google, but I wasn't sure of the source. I wanted to ask you guys, do you know what it is in Malawi? I'm confident that it's not more than Europe, and I think Israel is one of the leaders in the world in citrus production, but you have the potential to get there too. The second is tomato yields. Israel produces 300 tons of tomatoes per hectare versus what is an average of 50 tons around the world. And again, I wonder what the production yields are in Malawi. But this is what's possible. 300 tons per hectare of tomatoes we're producing here in Israel. Now, this is a very important slide, especially after the Russian invasion of Ukraine and the impact on the prices of grain. So when grain, as you know, is grown, it then goes into storage in silos, and so much is lost at that stage. The worldwide average loss for grain is around 20%. I think certain states in Africa can get up to 40 to even 50% losses in grains. And in Israel, due to a huge variety of innovations and approaches, Israel's grain loss right now is at 0.1%. If you ask the scientists, they'll say that only 0.1 because, you know, in case there's an anomaly or in case there's an accident, really it's around 0%. We don't lose the grain when it's in storage in Israel. And this is so important because think of the time, the money, the resources, the natural resources that go into growing your grain. Why lose it then at storage? And think about the meaning and significance both on food security, but also on the economics of grain production. Some other achievements from Israel: we have the highest milk cow productivity in the world. Our cows produce 13,000 liters of milk per cow. I think the next is Europe with about 6,000 liters per cow. And what you can see here in the picture on the left are the cows with something around their necks. They're basically wearing the cow version of the human Fitbit. I don't know if you know what the Fitbits are there. It's like, I don't know if it came from Google. It's the machines that the humans wear, people wear around their wrists or their ankles, and it measures all of your body parameters. Well, that's what the Israeli cows wear, just so we can understand everything there is to know about that specific cow and tailor everything it needs for the cow. Healthcare, food, everything is tailored for the specific cow. And if you're raising the cattle, you have it connected to your phone, which shows you all the data and will inform you what your cow needs. Okay, some more key achievements from Israel, which I hope will inspire you as to what can be done. Despite having 2/3 desert, okay, dry, rocky, barren desert, Israel managed to make the desert bloom. When you visit Israel and you drive into the desert, everything is orange and dry, and suddenly you see green coming out of the sand, and it makes me think it's a miracle every time. But Israel has succeeded in creating productive agriculture in very dry conditions. Here you can see over 40% of Israel's vegetables are grown in the desert. We're also cultivating fish, dates, vineyards, and wine is coming from the desert now, and dates. It's all about investing in the innovation and understanding how to make it work. And of course, water. So here are some images I had to show you. These are some of the images you see as you drive into Israel's desert. Everything is orange all the way around, and you have this green agriculture coming out of the sand. Now, there are very many answers as to how Israel has managed to do this, but I wanted to share one innovation with you, which is drip irrigation. I don't know how many people know what drip irrigation is, so I thought we can try and do a poll if I can work out how to do that poll. Let's see. Drip irrigation poll, launch. Here you guys go. How many of you know what drip irrigation is? Brilliant. 95% of you know what drip irrigation is. A few of you do not, which is great because it gives me a good excuse to explain what drip irrigation is. All right, let's see. End poll and share results. So here we are, 93% of you know what drip irrigation is and 7% do not, which is absolutely fine. I'm going to explain what drip irrigation is and also tell you a story about how it came about. Okay, so stop sharing the poll. All right, so drip irrigation came about, well, let's start with what drip irrigation is. Drip irrigation, as you can see on the screen, is about delivering water to the plants in a way that minimizes the amount of water that you need. What happens is you have something called a drip line, which is a rubber pipe, like these brown pipes you can see in the picture, and they have tiny holes in the pipes with little drippers inside. And the water, sometimes with fertilizer inside, flows through the pipes and drips out in tiny, tiny drops directly to the roots of the plant. And through this, you can reduce your water consumption by as much as 60%. And more importantly, or just as importantly, you can increase your crop yields by 90% compared with conventional irrigation methods. So through other irrigation methods, here your yield can increase by 90%. Now, the story I want to tell you about how this came about, it was discovered and created by an engineer called Simcha Blas. Okay, the story goes that one day he was walking home from work, he was an engineer, and he saw a row of trees or crops and bushes, all of them uniform height, the same height, except for one, which was much, much taller than all the others. And he thought, that's strange. Why is one of them so much bigger than the others? And he went to inspect, and what did he find? He found that there was a broken pipe right above the roots of that bush. And he saw that small water was dripping out straight into that bush. And all of the others weren't getting the water. They were just getting whatever was coming from the rain. And that is what inspired him to really create this innovation of drip irrigation. Today, it's very, very sophisticated. You have drip lines that go above the soil. Sometimes you have drip lines that go under the soil, which reduces even the evaporation from the water. You have systems where you put the fertilizer, you can do fertigation, the delivery of fertilizer and water together to the plants. And sometimes if you want to be very high tech, it's all automated, depending on sensors in the field. It delivers variable irrigation to different places in the field, and you can control it all with your mobile phone. And of course, as you can imagine, this produces excellent results. Okay, back to Israel's achievements. So give you a sense of what Israel's done. Production efficiency. I want to show you this graph, which shows in Israel how much the productivity of agriculture increased compared to other sectors. You can see that agriculture here is in orange and all the other sectors are in the other colors. And you can see that this agricultural line has increased dramatically. Now, what that means in practice is that the number of people fed by a single farmer in Israel jumped absolutely exponentially. In 1955, one farmer could feed around 15 people. And in 2017, one farmer could feed around 360 people. Now, this is a hugely important statistic because I want you to think of yourselves in Malawi. What could the future look like if one of you, one farmer here, could feed 360 people? What does that mean for the food security of Malawi? And what does that mean for you as an agricultural entrepreneur? Your bottom line productivity and, of course, profit. This is also an incredibly important one, specifically for Israel, because we are 2/3 desert, as you know now, but also for everybody around the world today facing the threat of climate change and more water scarcity. What this graph shows you is that as Israel's agricultural productivity has risen around 5-fold, it's produced the same amount of agriculture yield with the same amount of water. Okay, so we've increased our yields fivefold, but we're still using the same amount of water as we did at the beginning, which is how we're becoming more water use efficient. So we're using the slogan that we normally say is more crop per drop. For every drop of water, we want to get the most crop possible. All right, now I want to introduce the driver of Israel's success. How did Israel manage to overcome all of these challenges and create a complete agricultural transformation? It really makes no sense. And yes, we are people of the book. We are the Jewish people. We do believe in miracles. And we do sometimes call it Israel's agricultural miracle. But really, it can be explained. And I'm excited it can be explained because it means it can be replicated. And it means that you guys can do this in Malawi today. So I want to go through these very quickly because these 5 key drivers are going to be the subject of the next webinar, where my colleague David will dive in detail into the different elements here. But I want to give you a glimpse. The 5 key drivers of success. The first is the farmer-centered innovation model. How did Israel overcome so many different challenges? Is it created an innovation model, which we call the Golden Triangle. It's made up of these players in the corners that you can see, the National Research and Development Organization, the Extension Services, and regional research and development stations scattered across the country. Now, the most important player in all of this is, of course, the farmer. You guys, the farmers were the center of the innovation approach in Israel. And all of these players work together for the farmer. The innovation model all around the farmer. The second key driver of Israel's success, which is incredibly important, is that agriculture in Israel was always viewed as a business. Farming is a business. We are not farming for food security, we are farming for profit. If we are making money, we know we will be food secure. And actually, one of my big mentors here in Israel, who's a big leader in the agricultural sector historically, he said to me, Danielle, why are they talking about food security? We should be talking about Toyota security. Once our farmers, especially farmers across Africa know, and across Malawi know, that if they farm well, they can earn enough money to buy a Toyota, no one's going to be worrying about food security anymore. We've made it. And I've also included a quote here along the bottom from one of the leaders of the big marketing board here in Israel, who told us that it's essential to focus on where you have a market and where you can make money. Because if you don't have money, you can't do anything. So the question to you guys is to think about, how can you guys go about farming in a way that can, yes, provide food for your family to eat, but also to provide profit? Where are the markets? What's in demand? All right, David will go into that a lot more. The third is what we call the pioneer mindset, this entrepreneurial mindset. I don't know how many Israelis you've met to date, but they're a very entrepreneurial nation. We like to think out of the box, and we're also very stubborn. Okay, so if someone tells you that's not possible, we'll say, what are you talking about? Of course it's possible. And this mindset was summed up by Sion Deco. He's the director of one of the local agricultural research stations here in Israel. And he said, you know, what we believe is that nothing is impossible until we prove it's impossible. And that mentality and that mindset is what drove the pioneers here in Israel in the early days to overcome all of the challenges. And to sum that up, I want to show you this entrepreneurial approach through a story. This little creature you can see on the screen is a red palm weevil, okay? It's a pest, and what it does is it burrows itself inside palm trees. And the date palms in Israel are a key crop for our farmers. It's a great market and a business, okay? So they invest a lot of money and they're very profitable. But these red palm weevils were found to be burrowing into the tree and eating the tree from the inside out. And what that means is you can't tell the tree is sick until it dies and falls over. So one day, a big date palm tree fell over and died. And everyone said, what's happening? What happened to the tree? And they found this inside. So the Israeli entrepreneurial mindset, the innovation ecosystem goes into overdrive. How can we solve this problem? First thing they did is they made a nationwide PR campaign, okay? It went out on the radios, in adverts and TV. If you see a palm tree that has fallen over and died, please call the hotline. There is an infestation of this pest and they're very dangerous to our key crop because once it's eaten one tree, it will move to the next. So they wanted the public to call this hotline just so they could go and quarantine the trees. Now, what happened? All of these Israelis heard about the problem and they all thought, I can come up with a solution to that. That's not a big deal. So they started to get phone calls talking about solutions. The first phone call was from someone in the army, the Israeli army, who was training dogs to sniff out dynamite, okay? He said, I think I can train the dogs to sniff out the weevils. Now, the response to such a crazy idea was not, that's a crazy idea. Who are you? You don't know anything about this. The Israeli response was, great, let's try it. And so they put money down and they set up dog sniffing stations and they had these dogs sniffing out the red palm weevils. And I can tell you it worked. Now, the second idea that was tested came from researchers at the Volcani Institute. They said that trees are not too dissimilar to humans. And when humans get sick, they get a fever and trees get a fever too. So they said, if we fly drones with infrared cameras over the trees, we can identify which tree has an elevated temperature and we will know that there's an infestation in that one. And they tried it out and it worked. Now, the third solution also came from the army. Someone called up and he said he was working on the border between Israel and Gaza, where there is an issue of the Hamas terrorists digging under the ground tunnels to come up into Israel to attack. And his unit was responsible for creating a sensor to measure vibration. So as soon as there was someone digging a tunnel, the sensor in the soil would pick it up and it would send an alert. And they said, we think we could put our sensors into the trees and it will detect the palm weevil before it's able to do any damage. Great, let's try it. And that also worked. So this is the last poll for the day, but I want to ask you guys, let's see, stop sharing. Which solution do you think worked? Okay. Do you think it was the sniffing dogs, the drones with the thermal cameras, or do you think it was the sensors from the army in the trees? Well, I mean, they all worked, but which one really took off and is now gone commercial? No one likes the dogs. Come on, guys. Okay, let's see, a few more still coming in. Quick, fingers on the buzzer, press the button. 3, 2, 1, end poll. Share results. Okay, the majority of you think that the drones with thermal cameras won out. I can tell you it was actually the army sensors in the trees. Now, in true Israeli style, that then became a startup company, brought in investment, and it is now selling those sensors not only in Israel, but across the Middle East. And the red palm weevil has a lot to contend with now. All right, quick to whiz through the last bit so we get to wrap up and open up for questions. Strong government support was a critical driver of Israel's success. I won't go into this now, David will deal with it next time, but having good leadership and a good understanding and embrace of agriculture as a national mission to encourage the youth and all of the population is absolutely critical. And it really starts right from the top. And the last one is farmer organization. Okay, I want you to read this quote at the bottom. Smallholders cannot survive unless they are connected to bigger units of production. In Israel, right from the beginning, the farmers were aggregated together, whether they were in socialist kibbutzim, cooperatives, privatized cooperatives, what we call the moshavim, or indeed private farms, with the Israel Farmer Federation above them. The critical thing is that they were organized into groups, because unless you come together, you have no power of negotiation in the market. And that way you can share resources, aggregate together, and you can start to really compete. All right, let's end. I have 3 key messages for you today to end on, and then we can open up for questions and answers. I want you to know, my first key message is that the real drivers, the people driving the transformation out there on the ground in Israel were the youth, okay? The power was in the hands of the youth. They are the ones that got organized, took responsibility, and said, we are going to make this happen. There were youth movements across Israel, full of energy, full of enthusiasm, full of passion, who said, our lifetime mission, our national mission, is to develop the land of Israel. And you can see this in these old pictures. These are youth meetings of how to organize the cooperatives. These are the youth packing up oranges to send off for export. It was the youth that drove the agenda here in Israel. And I believe it's the youth that is really in your hands in Malawi. The second message I want to share is that in Israel, there was something about the ideology that we believed there was no higher ideal in life than becoming a farmer. I was just joking with the bishop before you all joined that a farming outfit is basically Israel's national uniform, okay? When we're asked how Israel creates an agricultural transformation, we actually partnered to create this case study, which we launched here with the Minister of Agriculture in Ghana. But the key message, and I can share this link afterwards, one of the key messages that we identify here is the role of ideology, okay, the role of passion. And the ideology that gripped the youth that were building the land of Israel was an ideology of Zionism, okay? And part of the Zionist ideology was that there was no higher ideal than becoming a farmer. It took the normal pyramid of life, which usually you see the farmers at the bottom, and elevated them to the top. So we have a joke in my family and many Jewish families that the Jewish mother wants their child to grow up to be a doctor or a lawyer. These are the only respectable professions, so my grandfather told me. But back in the day, in the early state of Israel, the real dream was to become a farmer. And if you were a farmer, you received the utmost respect. And this is the only thing that can explain the movement of youth from Europe in the early days to the land of Israel, which was swampy, had malaria, and they did back-breaking work to develop the land. And this is the picture I want to show you of that. These are youth that came from Europe that had a very comfortable life. They could have been doctors and they could have been lawyers, but they gave all of that up to move to the land of Israel to develop the land. Here they are draining the swamps. Many of them died from malaria. Others were in the south, clearing out rocks from the desert. And it's because the big dream was to become a farmer. No higher ideal than becoming a farmer. And the last message and the last story, right before I end and open for questions, is that failure is basically not an option. We believed we were going to be successful, and success was going to come no matter what. This is part of the mindset that I mentioned, that nothing is impossible until we prove it's impossible. Now, the story I want to tell you that shows this better than anything else is the story about how our first Prime Minister, David Ben-Gurion, made the desert bloom. So if you remember from the map at the opening of the presentation, Israel is 2/3 desert, okay? The desert is from the bottom to 2/3 up. And Israel's main water source is right up in the north, the Sea of Galilee, okay? So David Ben-Gurion, the first Prime Minister, said, I know to make anything bloom, we need water. So what we're going to do is we will build a pipeline 250 kilometers all the way from the Sea of Galilee in the north, all the way down to the south. And we will bring water to the desert and we'll make the desert bloom. And so he assembled a team of engineers and he told them his vision and he sent them off to go and make a plan. And these engineers came back to him, so the story goes, and said, David Ben-Gurion, Prime Minister, sir, you must be out of your mind. It's impossible. It cannot be done. And what was his response? So bring me the engineers that can make it possible. They must have thought he was crazy. But it worked. I want you to see this picture. This is Shimon Peres, our former president, showing the then Prime Minister David Ben-Gurion, 7 years later, the big water pipe that they had assembled that was then the first water carrier of the state of Israel to bring water all the way down from the Sea of Galilee to the desert in the south. And because of this vision and because of being insistent on finding a route to success, they managed to make the desert bloom. And so with that, I just wanted to end. This is who we are as an NGO, tackling food and nutrition insecurity with Israeli agricultural expertise. We like to only go in somewhere where we have strong local partnerships in response to requests from local partners. And we really would be honored to see how we could contribute value from Israel to you guys as you build Malawi's future. So with that, I will say thank you very much. We can open it up to questions. I'll ask Chief Nero if he's noted any down for me. This is our website. And of course, you're all more than welcome to find me on LinkedIn and we can communicate like that as well. Thank you so, so much for listening. I will stop the share of the screen. And I don't know if Chief Nero, you've got questions for me, or I can see some questions here. Why Toyota?
Wow, thank you so much. Thank you so much, Daniela.
My pleasure, my pleasure. Would you like me to just run through the questions, Chief Nero?
Yes.
Okay.
Hi, Daniela.
Hi.
Yes. Yeah, sure. I think the question is coming from Sekiro Mintete, is asking why Toyota security versus food security. Yes.
Why Toyota security versus food security? Okay. So from our experience, looking at a lot of organizations working in the food security space in Africa, their focus has primarily been on staple food crops. The idea being that you will grow enough that you can eat it. This does not provide the farmer with enough income to guarantee security, or indeed food security. I mean, food security works at two levels, right? You've got your family level, but you've also got your country level. And unless you're producing domestically enough food for the country, you are importing food, and therefore you're food insecure. If you guys, as young farmers, can do farming in a way that doesn't just provide enough for you to eat, so food security through, focusing on staple food crops, that can actually diversify the kinds of crops that you're growing, maybe into more high value horticultural crops. As an example, we believe by obtaining Toyota security, producing enough profit from your farming to purchase a Toyota, you will never be food insecure again. Is that a good enough answer, Chief Nero? I don't know if you want to add to that.
Awesome. I think Toko Chimasura writes, profound presentation. From this presentation, the key thing that stands out to me is passion, the commitment and determination demonstrated by the young people. How can we cultivate the interest of Malawian youth to have the same energy where there are no supportive systems in place?
I'm not sure I can answer that question. It's a question I'm asked a lot by different African leaders saying, well, how can we motivate our people to want to become farmers? I don't have the answer for you because I'm not from Malawi, so I don't know the culture, I don't know the drivers, I don't know what can create that motivation. All I can tell you from Israel is that there were two things that would stand out here in Israel. The first is the ideology that was cultivated about being proud of your land, about making the land productive. It was part of your national identity. That definitely can be cultivated either locally or nationally. And I think the second is actually showcasing success. When people here in Israel see, my neighbor is very successful farming over there, maybe I should start doing that. That in Israel works here. So if the youth are thinking about their future employment opportunities, they have to know that agriculture could be an attractive employment choice, rather than perhaps leaving rural areas and going to the city where it would be less attractive. That's all I can say from our experience in Israel.
Thank you, Daniela. I think William has joined. If you can make him with the admin so that he can make some comments as well.
Yes.
Since he wants to. Yeah, sure. Wow. I think the others are just comments. Will you please share this presentation either by email, WhatsApp once done? Yes, we'll share the presentation. The answer is yes.
Israel also practices organic farming. There's a question there.
Yeah. Yes. Welcome, William.
Thank you so much for the exciting and well-insightful presentation, Daniela. I was here from the beginning, and I would say I have learned a lot. So welcome, everybody. And my name is William Banda. I'm the technical advisor for youth organizations and advocacy at GIZ Malawi, especially the Empowering Youth in Agribusiness project. And I'm also a 2022 Mandela Washington Fellow for the Young African Leaders. So I'm doing that introduction because actually basically for the question that someone had just asked, someone was asking, you say, where there's no support, how can we possibly stay motivated as young people in Malawi? So I would say from Daniela's perspective and her presentation, you would really notice that she showed us where Israel is coming from. There was a time where they also had to do some groundbreaking. So at least for us as Malawi, we have a picture of what Israel did. That's why we have this practical webinar here, so that we can also look at believe in ourselves, understand that in the agri sector, there are a lot of opportunities. And also, if you look at agriculture investment at the moment and think like there's no support, then you're looking at the wrong picture, because there's a lot of investment in the agri space, especially supporting young people. Can I give you an example of that support? You're in this webinar today. This is the beginning of support, showing you that it's very possible. So what I want you to see is instead of seeing it as something that there's no support, see it there as there are a lot of opportunities. So at the end of this webinar, you will be able to know and explore different opportunities. The other thing that you also need to understand is that as part of support, there are other young people that are already doing it. So I introduced myself as a Mandela Washington Fellow for the 2022 Young African Leaders. I was awarded that program because of the investment that I was doing in the agri space, in the agri sector, empowering young people in agribusiness. Right now, I also work with the National Youth Council of Malawi. We have different types of organizations. We have youth organizations that are investing in the agri sector. I would give you an example to say we have 2 youth organizations from really local villages, rural villages rather. They have won grants, maybe amounting to over $40,000 each, which they are supporting their agribusiness perspectives. So what you have to do is to put yourself together, realize that there are a lot of opportunities in the agriculture sector and other young people are doing it. So that is what should keep you motivated all the time, and also keep an eye on the opportunities that are there. So thank you so much, Daniela, for for showing us how Israel did it, and we are really, really excited. Maybe as Chifunilo had put it in the beginning, that this series of webinars are going to be there for the month of March. Be on the lookout for the webinars. Chifunilo, you are talking maybe before I say other things. Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, sure. So there's still some questions. The other question says, what has Israel done so far to help Malawi in agriculture transformation and innovations? Daniela, can I take that or not?
Yes, please do.
Yeah, sure. So this is one of the supports that Israel is giving to Malawi. We have collaborated with, they have collaborated with the National Youth Council just to share this kind of knowledge to the young Malawians. And I should mention here, in April, we'll communicate on the exact dates. We are coming up with a huge agribusiness symposium, and Daniela and colleagues will be here in Malawi, just to, to enforce this kind of support. But beside that, there are a number of programs that are available. In the chat, Daniela has just sent a WhatsApp link. You can join there. We'll be able to communicate a number of support that the Israeli experts will be giving to the Malawians. Now, somebody has to say, why youth? Because about 60% of this country's population are young people. And if we are talking of Agenda 2063, well, the ones who make it happen are not the old people, it's the youth. So that's why I think the program kind of is inclined towards young people. Sure, thank you so much. Are you going to share the recording? Yes, it will be shared to your emails. Do you know why the drone with infrared cameras failed? I think somebody is asking.
It didn't fail. All of the approaches worked. The question was which was going to be the best commercially. Again, because everything is around the business approach. And so we had to make sure it would scale commercially, and the sensors were very, very cheap. So that was more affordable for the farmers. So that's why that won when the other one didn't win out as a commercial solution.
Awesome. Another question is, what policies and strategies were implemented to attract youths into agriculture in Israel?
Oh, wow, where to begin? I'll ask David to comment on that later. First of all, we had the ideology, but what policies and strategies? There was just huge government support and funding available to encourage the youth to succeed. This was done on so many different levels. One example is there was a body called KKL, or the Jewish National Fund in English. And what it did is it collected donations from the diaspora Jews around the world and brought them into the state of Israel. And with that, they supported the youth and anyone that wanted to go into farming. Okay, so one example is they used to create equipment stations for the youth and for others. So everyone would have access to a joint tractor and machinery and things like that. There were subsidies in place, there were protectionist measures in place in the very early days, and Israel ran a planned economy, very, very planned, to make sure that, the farmers would be supported and their produce could find a way out. Another element is about the marketing board. I don't know if Malawi is looking, or you're looking to grow to sell domestically or to export. I will share a link to our case study. We'll send it out again, and you can read that. That dives into much more detail about the different policies and things like that. And I'll ask David to touch on that next time.
Awesome. I think the other question, asking, can this presentation be delivered to our top readers in the government? Yes, it will. In fact, we'll have some of them in the upcoming meetings. We are supposed to have a minister here, so we'll see how it goes. Is it possible to access some technological devices that are commonly used in farming, like solar power system? William, can you handle that one? William, are you there?
Yes, Can you just take the question again so that I get it more clear?
So is it possible to access some technological devices that are commonly used in farming, like solar power systems? So take that up.
Right. Yes. Okay, fine. Yeah. The answer is straightforward. Yes. It's very, very possible to access that. So if you're asking maybe whether you want to access such things from maybe from Israel, I would say that is a point to debate about. But there are a lot of companies from Israel that export those type of devices from Israel to Malawi. And also, actually, you can also be linked to these organizations. And at the same time, also in Malawi, we also have other companies that, are doing such type of devices. Alternatively, we also have the other young people that have gone ahead to be working on innovations in that type line of thinking. So it's very possible. It's multi-dimensional. If you want the things exported to you, you can do that. If you want to find the things locally here in Malawi, it's also possible. You can do that. So maybe if you were asking in the dimension of how do I find financing for those, that's a question for another day. Thank you.
One of the things that we'll do is to make sure that we have different players from the Malawian entrepreneurial ecosystem. So we will bring, as we go along, we'll be having different players just to make, some presentations, more especially in the WhatsApp group that has been created, and in the coming webinars. So we'll have the academia coming in, we'll have the private sector, and there are some other supports that are available within the country, but maybe the challenge is what I call decentralization of business support. Much of these supports are concentrated in urban areas. So that's one of the intentions of this kind of webinars. We want to break that system. So yeah, sure, there will be such kind of opportunities available. I want to ask about organic farming. Will you explain how exactly you go about that during these webinars? Patrick Mwenilpembe is asking. Daniela?
So we're not actually touching on organic farming during this webinar series. I'm trying very hard to bring out one of our top agronomists with me to Malawi in the end of April. We'll see how the funding goes. He is one of Israel's leaders in organic farming, and I believe training with him could really transform a lot of the agriculture that you're doing. It's all organic. He's got some great techniques, and I think it's very tangible, practical things that you could learn and implement tomorrow. We'll have to keep talking and see whether we can bring him out to do in-person training, or we can get him on a webinar too.
Wonderful. Can youth serving organizations also benefit from your programs, William? William, are you there?
The question is, can youth serving organizations benefit from our programs?
Yeah, that's a
question.
Is
the question. All right. Yeah. Yes. They can benefit. So basically, we are already working with different youth organizations in Malawi, especially from our department as Empowering Youth in Agribusiness. So as we have already put it, that just keep on the lookout on these webinars. If you are consistent, I will be sharing more on the ways on how you can be engaged with us. And also we look forward to have a couple of those that are participating on these webinars to attend our upcoming Youth in Agribusiness Symposium. So I'm tempted to unveil more about that, but yeah, it's going to be one of its kind. Surely you will learn a lot through that symposium. Maybe we might also plan maybe to have it virtually because of traffic, because I know a lot of people are looking forward to it. But if you are actually consistent on these webinars and also you show much interest to learn, we'll definitely try to engage you so that you attend the symposium that's coming in this April. So just be on the lookout. But yeah, it's very, very possible. There are many opportunities. Thank you.
Awesome. Amos Chibwana writes, This is what is needed in Malawi. I wish I knew this years ago. The Malawi 2063 agenda needs such approach to be achieved. Youth are the hub for the Malawi destiny. And there's another question saying, do you offer internship scholarship for Malawian youth to come to Israel, learn the farming there, and later on come to Malawi and implement? I'll take that one up. I have somehow benefited from that. So I'll say yes, and we'll share details. It's especially through Israeli government agency platform called Mashav. They have their representative here in Malawi. We'll try as much as possible to get all of them so that they be present on this panel in the coming days. Thank you so much. And the other one is, let's say, Daniela, can you resend the link?
Mm-hmm.
Can you send the link?
The link to the WhatsApp group?
Think about the WhatsApp, yeah, sure. The WhatsApp group, yeah, sure.
That not work? Let's try again.
Sure. So the other question is, what technologies are done to smallholder farmers in Israel to reduce post-harvest losses? Based on what is on the ground in Malawi, there's high post-harvest losses in Malawi at local level by a large number of farmers, especially fresh post-harvest losses. Yes, Daniela, over to you.
Well, what could be done? I will leave that to our fourth webinar, which is done by one of Israel's leading experts in post-harvest solutions. So I think he can speak to that better than I can. It really depends on the crop. It depends on what's available, from very low-tech solutions to very high-tech. But I'll let him do a whole lecture just on post-harvest storage for you guys. I'm just trying to get you the link.
Wonderful. Now, another question goes to Mr. William Banda in Malawi. Organizing a youth into a group is not just as easy a thing as ABC. How can you help single youth from different areas who are willing to participate in this kind of agribusiness programs? William, over to you.
So here is what you must understand. To any successful enterprise, there is always what you have to do, all right? I have been in the agribusiness terrain before. I didn't just get to where I am now. I have done what I'm talking about. Even Chief Nilo here has also done what we are talking about. So simply, if you want to grow in the sector, you also have to allow yourself to go through the process. I've done work in helping to organize young people to work together as a cooperative or maybe youth groups or youth organizations. So, but also it's possible to go as a sole entrepreneur in the agribusiness sector. However, partnerships are key to growth. I would say there are opportunities that you can explore as a sole proprietor in the agribusiness sector. But at the same time, there are also opportunities, more of opportunities that you can explore if you work in groups. So maybe your question should be, how can I form a group? Maybe that should be a basic question. So what I would say is identify others that have the same passion with you and also analyze them. That's how you find business partners. Or maybe you can also say, if you're coming from maybe a rural place, maybe that's also an added advantage. You would just identify an already existing youth group and then see how you can partner. There are a lot of forms of partnership. It doesn't mean that you have to be growing things on the same farm to be one group. No, but you could say we'll be a youth group and then we'll be organizing, the same market after our harvest. So these are just some of the things maybe that you need to know and understand, but there are many aspects to it when it comes to forming a vibrant youth group. Also, if you need opportunities that are targeting a sole proprietor, they are also out there, but just that maybe you would be limited to explore other opportunities that target groups. Thank you.
Wonderful, thank you. What will be the way forward after these webinars? Are you intending to create a network or forum for those who are attending the webinars with an aim of tracking the implementation of different skills learned to quantify the benefit of this initiative in 2-5 years to come? Absolutely, yes. Absolutely, yes. I think the first step is the link we have created, mobilizing all the participants at this webinar, but also we're engaging different partners, local partners in Malawi, who can offer support. So keep on attending these webinars. We'll keep posted. We'll keep you posted. Thank you so much. Another one. Oh, Alex Toll is advising to say, I feel it would be appropriate if we can be asking questions regarding to the presentation. I think so far, I think we are done. I think so far we are done. The other questions I think are not related to this presentation, so let's spare them for next time. We said it will be an hour session, but I think the other thing is, do you accept proposal from youth in Malawi willing to work in nutrition and agriculture at your organization? I think Daniela is just facilitating, like offering content. Work is being done here in Malawi by the local stakeholders. So I would say the contact person for any kind of support, technical support, is not Daniela. I would advise it's William. So get out of William, you get hold of the National Youth Council. So, because this will be the machinery that would drive any other kind of support. So Daniela has just been brought in to assist in, sharing the knowledge, etc. But if you need any kind of support, how do we move from here? I would advise get hold of William. So, and how do you get hold of William? Like you can join that group, and he'll make himself available. Thank you so much. I think, does it mean you can solve proprietary agribusiness? What time of? Okay, thank you so much. I feel we had a very interesting session. Thank you so much, William, for joining. William, before I hand over to Daniela, William, do you have any last words? Any last comment? Yes.
All right. I'll just say, take this webinar seriously and also be on the lookout for more opportunities. Daniela has opened the door in terms of giving us the introduction on what, as young people, we need to know, the motivation that we require. So be on the lookout, follow us. Chifuniro has given guide on how we can help each other. Communication is one of the very most important things. So use the appropriate channels that Chifuniro has said. Use that group. Don't use any other channels, because maybe it may take time for you to get responded. But if you use that platform, it will be very easy to get access to the right people. So at this point, I would just say this is an opportunity that has shown up. Someone was asking to say, do you offer scholarships to go to Isla and learn agriculture and stuff? In as far as you are thinking that, but sometimes also look at an opportunity like this one as an opportunity for exchange. It's not all the times that you have someone from another part of the world get and give you the exposure. So in as far as you're looking for other big things, but also learn to use the small platforms, and also not really small, but the seemingly platforms that are already there. That's where it begins from. As I tell you, there's always a story to every successive enterprise. For me, my journey has been one step after another, and Chifunilo knows that. We have started with the small platforms and we have grown from there. So I'm encouraging those that are starting their agribusiness enterprises to also grow from there. Start small, and the other opportunities will follow you. There's a time whereby, you have grown so much, you have the experience, and now the platforms begin to follow you. So don't jump the steps. Thank you so much. Looking forward to see you again in the next webinar. Bye-bye.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Daniela, any last word? What should we expect the next kind of sessions?
The upcoming session will be run by my colleague David, who will dive into those drivers of Israel's success. We might also see if we can get a few words in from our expert Uri Adler on organic farming, if we believe that's important. Another session is devoted only to water, looking at Israel's water success and ways that Malawi can adopt different water innovations. And the last is on post-harvest.
Yeah, sure, wonderful. Thank you. I just want to encourage us all, more especially those who are working with young people. Please, this is one of the ways you can, stimulate interest into farming for the youth in our country. So please mobilize yourselves, be in groups. Let's engage. Reach out to William, as I said. If a youth group or if a youth leader, there is something that the National Youth Council, GZ, of course, with support of Volcani International Partnerships, are organizing. As I'm speaking right now, there is a short course that is running. The University of Johannesburg has offered scholarships for about 20 young people in agribusiness. Those are opportunities that are available. I think one of the things that we want to engineer is to teach you how to fish, not to give you a fish, so that you can fish everywhere. So no funds, no money promised, no word promised, but you have a skill that you can use to do whatsoever you want to do. Whether you want to go to Israel for a holiday, you do that with that skill that you receive. So expect to receive the wisdom, as Bishop prayed to say, he was praying for the wisdom to come to us. So expect to receive the wisdom that you can use, to reach out to whatever dream you want to have. So thank you so much. And thanks, Bishop Medram Chira, for the support, for gracing this occasion. We really appreciate for your time. And everyone who joined, thank you so much. We encourage you to reach out to as many people as possible. Next session will likely be joined by Professor Michael Rudolph from University of Johannesburg. I think you have 1 or 2 things to share on what also the kind of support they intend to offer the Malawian youth. So yeah, sure. Please be part of this movement. Something is happening in our country. God bless Malawi. God bless every one of us. Thank you. Shalom.
Thank you, Chief Anira.